Today I wanted to try animating this illustration I made for my last video. However, I don't have a ton of experience with animating, but I really wanted to make this drawing come to life a little by making his hair and his eyes move. So Procreate has an animating feature that can be found by clicking on the wrench icon, then on canvas, and then all you have to do is turn on animation assist. When you turn this on, it will make every layer a frame in the animation. However, this can make things a little wonky at first if you're working with a finished illustration the way I am. However, there is an easy way to handle this. If you have a layer you want set as the permanent background, all you have to do is click the image where it appears on the bottom tab, and it will give you a couple options. All you need to do is click the background option on, and it'll set that as the background for the whole animation. Now, for the other layers, all you need to do is group them together and it will read as one frame on the animation. And the way to group them together is by sliding the frames you want grouped together to the left, and then you click the group option. So from there, I made a new layer and began to draw over the hair. I have heard about these things called keyframes, which I think is just the first and last frame of an animation, and from there you draw the in-between frames. So that's what I tried to do at first. However, I don't think I did it right. Or maybe it just didn't work for me with this animation, because I ended up making a couple more frames after the frame that I had set as my final frame. The animation settings allow you to choose if you want the animation to loop, which means it'll just keep playing the animation from the first frame to the last frame. A ping pong animation means it'll start at the first frame, then go to the last frame, and then bounce back to the first frame. To me, this is my preferred choice for this animation, just because it's more pleasing to the eye, and it looks a lot smoother to me. Finally, there is the one-shot animation, and all this means is that the animation will only play once. I won't show a ton of footage of me drawing the hair just because it's super repetitive, so let's talk about the leaves. I like the leaves, however, they just weren't working for me. Since I don't have much experience animating, I didn't know how to make the leaves move smoothly, so I ended up deleting them from the animation. So after I did the hair, I animated the hoodie strings, which was the easiest part of the animation, and I could have just stopped there and went on to coloring, but I wanted to do a bit more, so I decided to make him blink. For this, I first drew his eyes completely shut and then drew the in-between frames of his eyes closing. I felt like the animation was just too short if it was only 4 frames, so I duplicated the first frame twice to extend the length of it. After that, I tried to duplicate the last frame a couple times, but it looked weird, so off camera I drew a few more frames of his hair and hoodie strings moving. Animating this was a very repetitive process, so I didn't bother recording that footage, just because it would just look the same as all of the other footage. And then came the hard part, the color, or rather the values, since it is in grayscale. Since I was animating an illustration I had already rendered, I decided to just use the liquify tool to push everything into place. This kind of worked, and it kind of didn't work. The issue was mainly with how the shadows ended up looking. They were all a bit off, and trying to render them out a bit to look more natural was not working for me. So I eventually decided to ditch the idea and recolor, reshade, and re-highlight the whole animation. Though this time I chose to only cel shade the shadows and highlights. This was tedious. I honestly don't know how animators have the patience to do this for a living, or how people manage to make animations the length of a TV episode by themselves. This animation ended up being 1 second long and it took me hours. I like to play around with little animations. I enjoy seeing my art move, but I could never see myself doing it full time. I don't have the patience for it. But I think it's really cool that there are people out there who have a passion when it comes to animating. I mean, it's cool to think about how there can be so many artists out there, and God has given each of us a different passion we want to pursue. For some, it's animation. For others, it's illustration. And there are other people who might just have a passion for painting or for making comics or graphic novels. It's really cool how many options art has. So without further ado, here is the completed animation. I decided to show you the animation of the originally rendered version since I did finish that one, but if you look closely at it, you'll notice the flaws. I like both, but I think the cel-shaded one is a bit cleaner. All in all, I did have a lot of fun turning my drawing into an animation, and I'm very happy with how it turned out, but let me know what you all think of it. Thank you for watching. God bless.